Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. As always, I am your host, Fearless Floyd, and welcome to Fearless Floyd Show. And today I'm going to cover, as you see behind me, infinite banking by Texas Snake. I have permission from the Seeds of Wisdom team to rebroadcast this video. I wanted to get Texas Snake on here and interview him. They said, hey, just replay his videos. They're on the website. So here I am. Going to replay this. I have not listened to it, so I'm learning as well. Like I always like to do is get everybody can all learn. Well, apparently about where I'm supposed to be. So give me a second. There we go. All right. Whoops. Hang on. Yeah, at least I catch it now. Hang on. Whoops. Anyway, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell while we're waiting to get my act together, and leave a comment. You want to reach me, the Fearless Floyd Show at yahoo.com. FearlessFloydShow.com is my website. I'm an online notary now, so I can notarize anybody in the United States or any one of the territories. Hit me up. Notary presentments, the whole 9 yards. Y'all ready to get started with Texas Snake on infinite banking?
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
Blue sky smiling at me, nothing but blue sky do I see.
you like to ride in my beautiful balloon?
Hello, this is Salty Toes with Seeds of Wisdom. I want to thank you for being with us. I am very excited to say that our guest is Texas Snake. If you couldn't tell by the music and where he lives and the things that he shares with us, it's very exciting to always talk to Snake and have him around us. He is an educator plus, and then fun. Everybody loves his music, and you even have your own Texas Snake music room. I'm also excited tonight that we have a girl, MT, that has been doing our graphics and all kinds of work behind the scenes, Danny Joe, and she has opened up, she has an Etsy shop, and she opened up a little portion of that shop for the Salty Toes. So anyway, the Salty Shop has all kinds of cute stuff that was inspired by the things that we're doing over here with the Seeds of Wisdom. Thank you, Danny Joe, and for being a part of our team. Now, Snake, what can I say about you? You are beyond phenomenal. Everybody loves Texas Snake. Your room, everything you say, they treasure. One of the things that you've done in the past is you've made a recording on a financial planner that is so critical to start with your foundation for you and your wife. Everybody can download that document in his room. We've also got the recordings up on the seedsofwisdom.team you can listen to. The educational ones are for a fee of a small fee that goes to a donation to help our community. The Zoom ones, like we're doing right now, are free. You just go into the shop. You have to act like you're checking out, but there's zero charge. And you can listen to these over and over in the slideshows. We're here to help you and grow together, and we all learn together, and we all come together at different times in our lives to share and grow. So with the ones that you've already done, like the financial planner, and then you did the 4 types of money and the 6 problems with money, which is unusual. Can you go over all that stuff with us, Snake? And welcome.
Well, I can sure try to go over it, and I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. This is our second attempt to get this information put out to the room, and just a little, there was a legal disclaimer at the beginning of this slide, but just to give you a little additional information before I get started, what gives me the qualifications to even talk about stuff like this. I was registered with the Securities Exchange Commission, the New York Stock Exchange, the National Association of Securities Dealers, as well as several college courses that I took over the years to become a recognized financial planner, a chartered financial consultant, basically is what they call it. But I was licensed with Series 7 initially and a Group 1 life insurance, and then annuity licensing, both fixed and variable annuities. Then as time went on and I got into my own situation with the broker-dealer community that I was involved with, I became qualified under a Series 26, which is a General Securities Principal license. What that allows is for me to put together deals and actually then market them as a broker-dealer would. I bring that up simply as a purpose behind why I'm capable. I spent from 1971 till I retired in 2008, and I still do some consulting with farmer clients, and mostly their wives now because a lot of the clients have passed on. But been active since 1971 in the investment banking business. I went to school and got a degree in investment banking, and a major in that, and a major in industrial psychology. So, and I ended up with a master's degree in banking from St. Louis University while I was working for TWA. They allowed me to, actually they paid to get me a second degree in investment banking. So I bring that up simply to say this is some of his qualifications to why he should be able to talk about these items. And here we're here to discuss what is termed infinite banking. That's a term that I didn't come up with. That's a term that I was introduced to by the guy that I was with E.F. Hutt and Company. he ended up securing Life Insurance Company of California to be owned by E.F. Hutton. And he was a real big promoter of infinite banking. And so I was able to learn from him up close and real personal as far as in the time it took us to acquire Life Insurance Company of California. Infinite banking is a unique method of securing guaranteed income you cannot outlive. And it also gives you the ability to use money in multiple locations at the same time. In other words, you have money in more than one place at a time invested, and it does this with some very attractive tax benefits. So I'll get into that, but before I get off into all of that, the whole purpose of these types of discussions is to let me at least share some of my experiences and history with you, so we as a group, a community, do not end up like the typical lottery winner who wins $2, $3, $5, $10 million on a $1 ticket, and they get all this money. They have virtually no exposure, experience in, or how to manage funds this big, and everybody they know suddenly becomes their best friend because they need to borrow some of that money or have it gifted to them. And typically, the most lottery winners that you know about are broke within 2 to 5 years after they win the lottery. And that's what I'm hoping to avoid with us as a community, that we don't end up in the typical lottery winner's position of having all these funds at our disposal, not really having a good management understanding of it. But we don't want to be broke. We want to continue this for not only our lifetime, but on into our children and our grandchildren's lives. And that's one of the things that infinite banking will provide. But again, before I get off into the infinite banking routine, some months ago now, in this room and a couple other rooms, I put together the type of questionnaire that I would use in first meeting with a new client or a prospective client. And I'd sit down with the husband and the wife and all their records at a dining room table or kitchen table, and I would complete the 6 or 7 page inquiry. Who you are, where you are, what you have, what you want, and how do we go from where you are to where you want to be. And I'm going to suggest right now, if you haven't done this yet, please find this financial planning questionnaire. It's at the top of my room, and Salty can direct you to where it is in some of the other rooms. It's 6 or 7 pages long. Print it out. If you're married, print 2 of them out. And in today's terms, today's money, what you have, what you owe right now, complete this form. Fill it out to the best of your ability. The money situation and possibly the insurance, death benefits, and the housing and the values of all of the property you have is going to change dramatically once the RV occurs. However, what you want now, goals and objectives wise, what you want to be able to do for your family now, even though you don't have the money to maybe do it all now, what you're going to want to have as your lifestyle as it is now is going to be very similar to what it's going to be once you have this windfall of money. But more critical than all of that is you're going to explain by filling this questionnaire out what your risk-reward ratio is and what your goals and objectives are. Where is it you want to be a year from now, 5 years from now? And when you get ready to leave this earth and pass the values on to your heirs, how much do you want to have? And that's what this questionnaire will give you a design of. And it will allow whomever you sit down with to do investment banking or financial planning with, they're going to need to know a lot of the same sort of information, and you will have already seen much of what they're going to ask you about, and will have had time to consider what it is you really want to do. What is your number one goal and achievement? I say, again, I print this out in 2 copies if you're married. My experience and history never failed that what the husband's goals and objectives weren't quite the same as what his wife's goals and objectives were. And as a planner, you need to understand she wants to do a little different thing here and there than he does. you need to have both of them so that when the guy comes back to introduce you to his plan, this is what he's going to recommend you consider putting money in. And it'll be broken down into dollar amounts or percentages. But he will be able to, knowing that the wife's portion of what he's presenting has a little different slant than what the husband has, and he can do some things tweaking the financial plan to where a lot of those separate objectives will be met. So that's why I suggest you fill two of them out now. Real quickly, I mentioned this before, there's only four kinds of money. It's not too difficult to figure these out. One is cash. That's the most one we're most familiar with, cash. The second type of money is protection dollars. That's life insurance, disability insurance, major medical, homeowners insurance, automobile insurance, protection. You take out insurance to provide you with a deep pocket if something goes wrong. The third type of money is fixed assets, and anything that has a known rate of return over a specified period of time is a fixed asset. The easiest description of that is a certificate of deposit with a bank. You're going to get X number of percentage a year, and you're going to have it for 1 year, 3 years, whatever the term is. Well, the same thing applies with bonds, corporate and municipal bonds, anything that has a known rate of return over a specified period of time. And the final type of money is what we term equities. And this is the broadest range of items that are available. Most common form of equity that most people are aware of is common stocks that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange or on NASDAQ, or a lot of mutual funds, common stocks and preferred stocks, and also they put some fixed instruments in there so you have a balanced portfolio if you buy a mutual fund. But those are basically the four kinds of money. And in equities, you can get off into all sorts of really exotic programs. Triple net leased housing and triple net leased rental properties, over-the-road tractor, trailer leasing, oil and gas drilling equipment. There's all manner of things. Section 8 housing, which you can get into, that is comprised of what we call equities. And real quick, there's six problems that you deal with when you're dealing with money. Is also pretty basic. The first one is never having enough money, and that's usually some of our stations in life. All the time we've been here, we've been in that where we didn't have enough money to do things we wanted to do. Second problem is having too much money, and this is usually where you get the eyebrows to go up. How can you have too much money? Well, that generally is a woman's problem. A husband takes out a big life insurance policy when they're first getting married and getting started, and then something happens and he dies prematurely. The wife, who's never been involved with a lot of management of funds or a large pile of money at any one time, is suddenly thrust into charge of how does she manage and handle and invest. And so having too much money is generally a woman's problem. Third thing is inflation. The cost of goods and services go up every year, so you got to have your money at work so that you can keep up with the cost of goods and services. Next problem is deflation. That's where you lose purchasing power on your money. So you got to have money invested in things that are going to give you a hedge against both the cost of things going up as well as a hedge against the value of money going down. The fifth problem is dying too soon. You don't have the time that you thought you were going to have to put together all your plans. And the last problem is living too long. And that basically means you've outlived your supply of money, and you're going to become dependent on either your children or some charity or something else along the way. Now, infinite banking is a unique, it's a really unique method of putting money to work with many guarantees. Number one, the first item you purchase in an infinite banking method of money management is a traditional whole life insurance policy with extremely high cash value capabilities, where you can put more money into that policy than just the premium. It's different from a term insurance contract in that it has a built-in cash value. and you had the ability to buy what are called paid-up editions or things of that nature, where you can dump more money into the cash than actually the contract calls for as you progress through the period of time that you own it. The other thing that's really important about the cash values is every company that's a recognized life insurance agent company has to have a guaranteed floor rate of return. It can't pay you less than this percentage every year on the cash that's in the contract. Most of the policies that I were involved with at the time of selling them, they had a 4 to 4.5% floor earnings rate. That means 4.5%, it would be the least you could make on that money invested in there any given year. The other thing, if you concentrate primarily on mutual insured companies as opposed to the traditional stock type company, that stock company I'm talking about is one that's traded on New York Stock Exchange, like Allstate. That's a stock company. They sell shares of Allstate Insurance on the exchange. Mutual companies, there are only about 12 of them in the country. They are owned not by shareholders. They are owned by the policy holders of the people that buy insurance with that carrier. The one I use the most, and it wasn't the only one, but was Northwestern Mutual, has got an incredibly good record as far as what they pay and what their dividend earnings rates have been. And you, as an owner of the company, get paid that floor interest rate, plus you get to participate in whatever dividend they declare. And the dividends are based on their investment performance through the year, what their money managers have been able to put the money that's in that company to work, and how much it's earned them that way, as well as the mortality experience. Less people died than they presumed were going to die, so they didn't have to pay out lump sums of money at the level that they thought they might. So they have money there to issue these dividends. So you participate in the floor earnings plus the dividend rate. The real beauty of what makes this policy so attractive, however, is they're paying you 4.5% as a floor earnings on your cash. They will loan you between 95 and 98%, depending again on the company, 98% of the cash surrender value at an interest rate that will never exceed 0.5% above their floor earnings. So if you're earning 4.5%, you can borrow 98% of the surrender value in that policy at 5%. So the difference of 0.5% is your cost to use money. And I challenge anybody today, go find a bank that will loan you money today in today's market at 0.5 percentage point. It's just not available. Now, what do you use these loan dollars for? Well, some people use them to buy automobiles every 2 or 3 years. You take a loan against your policy, you go out and buy a brand new car, and you pay cash for it. Then you set up the repayment schedule in that policy like you would if you borrowed the money from a bank, and you repay the money into the life insurance. That does two things. It increases the money that's working at a higher rate than the floor earnings rate, and it reduces your interest expense.
Did I lose you, Snake? Snake, did I lose you?
There's other things you can do with these borrowed funds, and that's where the real beauty of infinite banking starts to demonstrate itself. Let's say you settle and you can afford to take $10 million of your exchange rate and put $5 million in a policy in your name and $5 million in a policy in your wife's name. So you now have two insurance policies that have a total of $10 million of cash surrender value in the contract. You do this in a trust. You don't do it individually. You own it in a trust. So the trust is the owner of it, and the trust is the trustee is who controls what you're going to do with the funds inside that policy. The fact that you don't own it means it's not part of your taxable estate. So $5 million to you and $5 million to your wife which would put you above the threshold for having to pay estate taxes if you own this stuff individually. It's owned by a trust, which will never pay estate taxes. So you've got $10 million set up in there, but there's no estate tax on it. Now we take the maximum loan that we can against that contract, for both contracts. Let's just work with one. We got $5 million in there, and they'll loan you, let's just use round numbers, 98% of that. Let's say you're going to borrow $400,000 of the $500,000 in the policy. We're going to take that money and go right back to the same agent that we bought the insurance with and have him purchase a tax-deferred immediate annuity. Immediate annuity means that within 30 days of taking that annuity out, they're going to start paying you based on your age, the mortality tables that you're using with that carrier, and how much money you put in it. They're going to pay you a monthly distribution. And the example I used on $500,000, on $5 million, borrowing $400,000 from the policy and buying this, your annual income, your monthly income would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $17,000 a month. That's coming to you every month. And now you got money in the insurance policy that you're using for 0.5%, and you've got money in a immediate annuity that's paying you in the 5 to 7% rate. And you've got immediate cash flow, the majority of which is going to be return of principal because you haven't had it working that long to earn a lot of money on it. And they operate under LIFO accounting, last in, first out, which is earnings. So the majority of which you collect each month is going to be return of principal. Therefore, there will be no current income tax on those dollars. Now, the real critical thing to keep in mind with an insurance policy such as this, you want it to remain a life insurance policy and not be converted to what is known in the industry as a modified endowment. Much, much different tax liability on a modified endowment. Now, how do you keep it qualified as life insurance? With new dollars each year, in the first 7 years, you've got to come up with the first year's premium, and then 3 more times in that 7-year period, you've got to come up with a brand new premium. And the premium on this policy might be $35,000, $38,000. So you'd have to have, your $38,000 to buy it, and then $140,000 over the next 7 years you'd have to come up with to be able to pay the $38,000 at least 3 more times. You do that, making 4 out of the first 7 years premium payments with new money, you qualify that forever as a life insurance policy, not a modified endowment. Now, you got these loans outstanding from your policy, and you got the cash flow coming in, and let's say the cash flow coming in, it only takes you $5,000 or $6,000 a month to support yourself. So you got $17,000 roughly coming in, minus $5,000, that leaves you with $12,000 a month to, it's over and above what your living expenses are going to be. My suggestion here again is you put some of that money in a money market account, someplace to accumulate money for a cash reserve, as well as starting to collect the premium expense is going to come up, in year 3, 4, and 5, or 5, 6, whatever years you choose to make those next 3 payments. And you take the balance, or half of it, in my case, and start repaying the loan back to the insurance company. And by repaying that loan, like I said earlier, you increase your earnings from the floor rate of 4.5% to whatever their current rate is, might be 6 or 6.5%. So your earnings go up, and your expense to use your own money, the 0.5 percentage point, it starts being reduced every time you repay part of that loan. Now, the one thing that I would do a lot with my clientele, again, these were all high dollar, they were physicians, surgeons, doctors of some specialty. They were accustomed to paying anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, $110,000, $120,000 a year in income tax based on what their practice generated after they took their salary. That's what they owed in taxes. And the way I would structure it, we were doing just what I talked to you about now. We would see their tax bill go from $175,000 to $100,000 a year down to somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 a year on their same income. Their income remained the same. And the third step that we used to do that was we would accumulate money. Like I say, half of the money we're repaying the loan, the other half we're putting in a savings account. When we woke up, $50,000 in that savings account, we would go out and purchase interest in a Nuveen tax-exempt bond portfolios. Now, what Nuveen does, they only invest in tax-free securities, things that pay interest, but there's no personal or state income tax liability on it. So instead of having your money sitting in a money market account that's taxable, you move it into a Nuveen tax-exempt bond fund, and they start generating monthly income to you. It comes to you in the form of either a deposit directly or a check every month. There's no tax on it. So now you got your money in the insurance policy, cash values. You got your money in the immediate annuity, and you got your money at work in a tax-exempt bond portfolio. And there's two ways to buy that bond portfolio. You can buy it at the current market, which means you're paying $1,000 per bond on all new issues, or you can go into what's known as a secondary market. This is Nuveen portfolios that are 2 and 3 and 5 years old that were issued for $1,000, but because of changes in interest rates and so forth, they're now trading in the secondary market at, say, $700, $750 a bond. They're paying interest on a $1,000 bond, but you're buying that $1,000 bond for $700 or $750. So you can buy more of them with the same amount of money. You get a few extra bonds, which increases your monthly cash flow. When they mature, they're all going to mature at $1,000, and they're varying maturities. And you'll get a lump sum distribution at some point, 5, 7, 8 years into the plan, and it'll be recognized. This is so much cash flow from the tax exempt funds, and this is return of principal, and it's because this bond or that bond matured. Now I've got you with money in 3 places at the same time with no tax or very little tax, and the thing that I haven't mentioned thus far is the 98% that they would loan you below your cash surrender value. That cash surrender value also has another item, and it's called the death benefit. This is what the company will pay you, interest that you accumulated in your savings, plus the death benefit of the policy at the point of your death. Now, they've only loaned you 98% of the cash that the policy was worth. So there's 2% in there over and above what they would loan you. That's the death benefit. That's also what makes this whole thing a non-callable loan, meaning the insurance company, as long as the policy is enforced, you've got more death benefit than you have money on loan, it's non-callable. They can't make you pay it back. You die eventually, whatever you have outstanding, if you haven't paid any of it back, they're going to take the amount of your death benefit, subtract the amount they've loaned you, and send your beneficiary, whoever you named in that trust as a beneficiary, and should be your trust. Initially, the insurance policy would pay the trust, and you would have divisions underneath that in the trust to take care of anybody that's a beneficiary of the trust that's still alive. Therefore, you have virtually no risk with that loan, and if something were to happen to you, the policy is paid off, that loan goes away, the death benefit is paid, and you still own the immediate annuity, and you still own the tax-exempt bond, and they're paying whoever you've named in your will and estate. They're paying that individual you've named that monthly income for as long as they're around. Now, the one thing I left out on the annuity, when you buy one, you got 10 years certain in life, 15 years certain in life. You want to get a 15 or 20 years certain in life, depending on your age. What that means is they're going to pay somebody 15 or 20 years if you should die the next day. Whoever you've named as your beneficiary is going to get that monthly benefit for 15 or 20 years. And then it says, and life, 15 years certain in life, 20 years certain in life. What that basically does is if you live beyond the 15 or 20 years, as long as you're alive, those funds are going to continue each month, whether the insurance company's run out of money or not. That's the gamble they're taking. They're betting you're going to die, and you're betting you're going to live. But the cash flow continues for that period certain, plus your lifetime, whatever that happens to be. And Salty, I don't know if I was supposed to say anything about going to the next slide. I forgot all about that.
Well, you've touched on so many things. I'd like to go back to your basics because you're just a pro at this, and it's just second nature to you. But the first step everybody ought to do is listen to your recording, fill out that financial planner with your spouse, get really clear on what your goals are, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And then what we need to do is keep listening to this and other things, make notes, learn what is your goal and how can you get there? And Snake lays it out, and even it's a simple plan, it's very complex. So you've got some terms that you suggested that we learn. You've got some tools that we need to dig in for our own personal education and learn what to use, how to use them to apply to us. And all these things are on the seedsofwisdom.team and also on your in your Telegram room. We've got documents pinned to the very top, and in those documents, you're going to find things that Snake talks about. You want to go over this a little bit about the bucket and explain how that kind of works, and that illustration that you talk about. You know what I'm talking about? The spout in the bucket. Snake.
I think I'm understanding what you're saying, but let me
The diagram about the bucket.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Could you go over the diagram? Talk about the diagram about the bucket.
Okay, I can do it. Let me make a couple points real quick first. Whenever you sit down and start dealing with professionals in the securities industry or the insurance industry, some of the terms that they like to put behind their name are usually just letters like CLU, CHFC, CASL, or RICP, those type of, well, what that is, CLU is a charter life underwriter. CHFC is a chartered financial professional. CASL is a chartered financial consultant. I can't keep them straight anymore. Anyway, those people have some familiarity with all this stuff I'm talking about. So if you call in an insurance agent, qualify them. I want someone that is a CLU, or I want someone who's a chartered financial consultant. Because when you start talking about infinite banking with them, they are going to have some familiarity with what it is you want to do, and they can explain all of this stuff that may seem very confusing to you right now. I learned early on to write upside down, so I could sit on one side of a desk or a table, and the clients could sit on the other, and I could draw little pictures and show them what I was talking about, and put the words in there, or the description of what dividend is DIV, or interest is INT, or CAPGAIN is capital gains, those types of things. But when you sit down with someone that has some exposure and experience in the industry, they're going to know what it is, and you're going to be smarter than they've ever sat down across from anyone before if you just play these tapes back and forth half a dozen times and take good notes. Now, what Salty was referring to, I used to draw when we get all through finding out what people, what they had, what they wanted to do with themselves, how much insurance they currently owned, how much disability income they currently owned, what their retirement pictures look like. Were they part of a pension plan, profit sharing plan, money purchase, design benefit, whatever type of, did they have an IRA, did they have a KEO or a 401k, those types of things. And you get a value of where they are now and what they're earning every year. As I say, in a doctor's position, might be $150,000, $200,000 a year earning. But after they pay $70,000 to $100,000 in tax, they didn't have much spendable income after that. So what I would do is I would, upside down, I would draw a bucket with 3 legs on the bottom of it and an open top, like a pail. And on the side of it, on one side, I'd put a spigot, a hose spigot, with a little handle. And I let them know that handle they controlled. They could close it all the way off, or they could open it wide open, but they control that handle. At the bottom of that bucket, I would write, again, upside down, pot of gold, and tell them, this is your pot of gold. And then above the rim of the bucket, there's an opening. Now, I have a circle at the top, so it looks like it's a regular pail. I would put the word dividend, D-I-V, and an underline with an arrow pointing into the top of the bucket. And then interest, INT, and an arrow with a point into the bucket. Cap gain with an arrow. Growth, that means that we buy something at $60 a share and it goes to $120. That's growth. At the bottom of the bucket, I would draw arrows pointing up. Again, on either side of this thing, it said pot of gold. And I said, now what I'm going to be doing is at the top end, and you're going to see the values in this bucket grow each year that you leave it alone. And at some point, it's going to reach that spigot. The principal is always going to be below that spigot, and whatever amount is above that spigot is going to be the earnings off of the money you put in here. It might take you 5 years or 10 years, but you might have enough right now to dump in there and immediately have positive gain. It's that line above the principal, the basis, and it goes above the spigot. That's the money you're going to take out and spend or give away or use to buy stuff. So you're never, ever spending the principal. The principal is always guaranteed. And we've gone through these steps now with the life insurance policy, the immediate annuity, and the tax-exempt bond portfolio. Those are pretty well guaranteed, too. Back in 1929, we had a depression in this country, and there were 5,000 banks in the country shut their doors, and people that had money in the banks couldn't get any money out of that until it was early into the Second World War, where they could start getting some of their earnings and principal back. So from 1929 to 1941, they didn't have any money in the banks. During that same period, not one life insurance company anywhere in this nation lost $1 for any insured. Not one insurance company. Now, some of them went broke, but the insurance industry does something banks don't do. They have a program called reinsurance. And what that basically means is I'm with Northwestern Mutual, and I write this $500,000 or $5 million policy on my life. Well, Northwestern Mutual might retain 10% of that. And they go out and reinsure all the difference with, 24 other carriers, so that they spread their risk. So if I died, Northwestern Mutual is going to pay my heir the death benefit. But all the money isn't coming out of Northwestern Mutual's pocket. It's coming out of their pocket plus the reinsurance company's pockets. That's why the insurance industry didn't lose any money in the Depression, and every bank shut their doors and you couldn't get your money out of it. So there's an awful lot of guarantees involved with life insurance and annuities, and there's very little involved. Banks are a guaranteed loss. No matter how you look at it, you're going to guarantee to lose money if you put it in a bank, because you earn interest at 6 or 7%, you pay tax at 30, 40%, inflation steals 2 or 3% a year. I can show you on $1,000 at 7% interest, $70. Inflation is 3%. That's $21 from inflation, and then your tax bill 35%, 40%, whatever it happens to be. You don't have any money at the end of the tax bill and inflation, because all the interest you earned on that $1,000 you paid in taxes or your loss in purchasing power. How's that?
You did wonderful. So what you're planning on doing is teaching everybody to listen to these recordings. We can plant the seeds that you have here, or we can nourish our families and our finances, or we can have generational wealth. The number one thing you have made very clear is you don't want to have anybody have a lottery mindset, and you have spent so much time with us, Snake, teaching us and your leadership of how to not have that mindset, how to plan. And even though you don't have the finances right now, the education is where you can really buckle down and learn and be prepared. Do that financial planner. Listen to these recordings over and over. Snake's in his room all the time, answering questions, and over in the planning room, he pops all over that house looking for people to help. He really and truly does care. He has nothing, zero to sell. He is here because he cares about each one of us. And he is just a joy and a pleasure to even having him on here and being able to call him my friend. I just adore Texas Snake. He's so special. So please, saddle up, as he'd say, saddle up and let's learn. Get in Texas Snake's room and don't get overloaded with the education. Turn on some of the Texas Snake tunes that he plays in there. Kick back, ask some questions, and he's there to help every one of us.
Let me make one more point before you close this down.
Okay.
These people that you're going to deal with, the attorneys, the accountants, the brokerage industry, the insurance agents, they work for you. They don't work for them. And you can have them come out to your house or your office and give you a presentation, take a financial planning inventory and all, and come back and present you. You're under zero obligation to have to buy anything they want to sell you. You don't have to pay them unless they tell you up front, I can come do this, but I don't work on commissions. I work on fees, and this is what it would cost you. And as soon as they said that, you'd look for the next guy that's commission-based. So but you're not under any obligation to do anything they ask. You're in a learning curve, and you want to be sure that the person you're dealing with knows enough about it, what it is you want to do, and you feel comfortable enough in discussing these things with that individual that you can develop a working relationship. I would tell my clients initially when they were first, we're going to meet at least 3 times during this first year. At least 3 times, and we're going to do make sure that everything that we're talking about today is working still, and you don't have any changes. In the second year, we'll probably meet twice, have 2 updates during the second year. After that, it's probably once a year, unless you have something come up that you need me. And sure, if you call me, I'll be here. So that's the point, folks. You're not under any obligation to deal with them other than to pick their brain as best you can. And as Salty just said, if you get some of these things and listen to them 2 or 3 times, it sounds complicated. It's not all that difficult once you sit down and start putting on a piece of paper, step 1, step 2, step 3, and figure out what the revenue is. You could even call an insurance agent and say, if I had $100,000 and I wanted to buy an immediate annuity with your company at my age today, can you send me a proposal? And they will. Can you mail it to me? And they will. Now you got $100,000, and the term in my business was interpolate. You got $5 million you want to put in that policy, and this is what $100,000 in an annuity. So I take that $100,000 revenue on a month basis and multiply it times $5 million. And then you know what your revenue is going to be without even seeing the agent. But they'll do that for you. Anyhow, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but that's about all I have.
No, you've done a lot more. You just go. You talking about setting up trust with your family, how you were able to use those trusts and buy your planes to different things that you've done. You sharing all that with us, Snake, is invaluable. You can't hire somebody to share what you're sharing with us. You are just a jewel.
Mm-hmm. Well, you want to get into trust now too, or just is that enough?
Well, if you want to, I bet you nobody would complain.
Well, I can tell you how I've done it, and you're welcome to use it exactly as I say, or take the idea and make it fit whatever situation you're in. But we have. I'm trying to count them up. We have 2 living trusts, and we have an equipment trust. We have a property trust. We have vehicle trust. Now, equipment and vehicles are different. Equipment is stuff like caterpillars, tractors, stuff that's used on a farm or a ranch, hay wagons, and that sort of stuff. We have cattle and a bull, a couple bulls now. They're owned by 2 different trusts. Airplanes are in trust. But what you do with all these trusts is you got a main trust. You know, like mine is my living trust, and the wife's is her living trust. Underneath that is a vehicle trust. That's the trust inside of it. It's a sub-trust that owns the vehicle in her name, and not in her name, but in her trust name, and mine in my trust name. But we get to drive them, and we get to drive them for free because we're so critically important to the trust. They couldn't operate without us. So that's one of the fringe benefits the trust set up for us, is to give us a new car every 2 years. Now, they lease it in my trust. They buy it in her trust. Different reasons, but anyhow, there's the thing is, if you have livestock, this is where I've educated all my kids, both in cattle and selling them at a feedlot sale. And a bull is owned by a different trust, and we charge the kids own the calves that come out of the cattle. They go to the trust, or go to the market, and the bull is owned by a different trust, and we charge the bull's trust a fee to produce semen to get the cattle pregnant. And we figure that out based on how many calves. And we had 66 this year, 66 new calves. But all those kids were educated selling cattle through those trusts, and when it came time to send them to school, we borrowed money from the trust. Of course, the insurance policies are owned on those kids' lives inside that trust as well. That's where the money's sitting until we need it. We borrow it, send them to school. We're still earning income on the money it costs us to buy a dorm room and a meal ticket and send them to college. So those are the kinds of things. And you get with a unified estate and gift tax attorney, somebody that understands trust, and that's what those guys do. He will go over all kinds of ideas. You put a medical and dental reimbursement plan in your trust. So if you get sick and need to go see a doctor or be hospitalized, the trust is paying your premiums, and they're going to reimburse you for any expenses that you had to pay out of pocket. You accumulate and pay the bills all year. At the end of the year, you add that all up and present it to the trustee. He writes you a check. It's tax-free to you. It's a fringe benefit, and it's tax deductible to the trust. If the trust has a tax problem, they can write a portion of that income tax liability off using the medical and dental reimbursement that they paid you. So if you go see a dentist, you go see an eye doctor, anything like that, your trust is paying you tax-free to do so. Those are the kind of ideas you can come up with. But a unified estate and gift tax attorney, they know all about this. Well, I learned all this, even though I did go to school. Eventually did go to law school, but never sat for the bar. But those are the type of lawyers I use, and I pick their brain all the time. How can I do this, and what can I do with that? And it's amazing. Of course, I was generating a lot of revenue for them. You're looking at somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000 to have a good will, a pour-over will, and a trust put together by a qualified attorney. Unless you do it for some of these templates that are being sold now, but they don't address the things that you're going to need addressed once you have the money to really get into it and pay a lawyer that knows what he's doing to draft something up and whatever else you do, never accept a trust that doesn't have a spendthrift clause in it. That keeps you totally away from the courthouse. Spendthrift clause. Keep that in mind. Okay, Salty.
I was going to bring that up about the spendthrift because you put such emphasis on that about it being so important that even your basic trust needs to have that clause in there about the spendthrift. And whenever people read up on that, you'll see why it is important to have on there.
Okay, kiddo, I think that's about it for me.
Well, I appreciate you being here always, and you put a big smile on my face, and I know everybody will appreciate you, Snake, and your message, your kindness is overwhelming. We appreciate you and just adore you. I can't say that enough.
Well, I'm going to put a smile on my face by replacing this empty beer can with a full one.
You're wonderful. Well, you can listen to the recordings on seedsofwisdom.team, and this presentation that we have right now, if you go to the seedsofwisdom.team, look under products and you can download it. And there's even a link of how do you download this presentation on your computer where you can watch it numerous times. It's all there for you where you can click and print out and watch it over and over. We also have the recordings that Snake has made for the community donations that are up there, that you can look under those professional links and the VIPs and see, you know, what they've put out there to help educate you and a hand up to our community. So we have people that might need a little hand up right now, and it feels so wonderful that we did a little bit to help somebody a whole lot. So thank you, Snake, for everything, big time. So
You're welcome. God bless everybody.
Well, God bless you, and here we go.
Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end.
And as they say, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I'm just kidding. Anyway, as you see, I got my hat on. Yep. The world has turned that evil where I've got to make a choice for the betterment of humankind. That's sad. Anyway, there you go. Infinite banking. I'm sure you have a question or two. If you do, put it in the comment below. That way I can see it. And if we get enough responses, enough questions, I'll see if I can get Texas Snake on here and we get some more specific answers to your questions. I hope that kind of gave you an idea of what infinite banking looks like, how he utilizes it with the life insurance policy. So for those of you who have an inclination that you might be becoming a fruitful beneficiary, there you go. In the near future. So this may be something that you're looking at. Now, I do know once a certain thing happens that he's going to have allegedly a riverboat cruise, and on this riverboat cruise, he's going to be teaching the infinite banking process. But I want to do a one-on-one with him, but I didn't. It is what it is. They told me to play this video, so I did. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below. Email me at thefearlessfloydshow@yahoo.com. You can go join the Seeds of Wisdom team at their website, seedsofwisdomteam.com. I believe is their website. I'm surprised I don't have it up there. My bad. Sorry, guys. Make sure you're not at seedsofwisdom.com, seedsofwisdomteam.com, I believe it is. Anyway, yeah, go join them. Great group of people. Tons of information, even more than this. I just want to get this out there. So thank you. Thank you, Texas Snake. Thank you, Salty Toes. And we've covered everything. Like I said, if you need any remote online notarization, hit me up. I just got my certificate yesterday. So I'm good to go. Notarize anything online. I also do notary presentments. I do wills, last wills and testimonies. And I also do a anti-counterfeit wills. So if you're like really, really, really serious about protecting your estate, hit me up. Got something for you. I do everything on the highest standards available, whatever that is. Doesn't matter what it costs. I just want the highest standards for anti-counterfeiting measures. That's what I utilize. All right. Well, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Hope you learned something about infinite banking, and I'll see you in the next video. And with that, I'm over and out. Peace in the Middle East. Let's go RVing. Waiting.